Hey everybody, this is Jay Tahoe here. Just wanted to continue my coverage of the Russo-Ukrainian war. It's been a little while since I reacted to this. So we're now about a month and 3 weeks into the war. Things have definitely changed from where they were, nearly 2 months ago, right? It's interesting because we had generals who said that, this was going to be over in 3 days. Some of them said a week. Here we are nearly 2 months later, and it looks like, as of today, it's starting to look like Mariupol may surrender. Which, hey, they put up a hell of a fight. I think that's actually very telling that it's taken nearly 2 months for Russia to take, one large city. Again, they thought they'd take the capital in 3 days. Um, Anybody who thinks, by the way, that was a strategy, that they're like, oh yeah, they're just shifting back, that was a tactical strategy. I would say that's deluded coping. They were driven out of Kyiv. I mean, you can see the videos of destruction of Russian military vehicles. There's tons of them. To be fair, Ukraine has gotten a lot of weapons from us. The rest of the West here. We've been helping them out way more than Russia thought that we would. You also see Putin now purging his own people, putting his spy chief in jail. He put a new general in charge of the entire operations. That kind of tells you him making changes and reacting like that things haven't gone according to plan. And I'm still going to get the trolls who are going to say, oh, that's just Western lies. Russia can crush Ukraine. Da, 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 da. But here's the thing: if that were really true, if they really could take them in 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, why is it near 2 months later and they are just now capturing a major city? I mean, that just doesn't really make sense, right? I think back in like 2000, when we went to when we were in Iraq, and I'm not saying that was it wasn't right for us to be there, because Saddam did not have the WMDs, but we had Baghdad captured, within like a month, right? So we basically like we were in Baghdad within 2 weeks. Um, so Russia has kind of like shown itself not to really be the military superpower that we cracked it up to be. I mean, yes, they have the nukes, okay? So I guess at the end of the day that does make them a superpower, but that's kind of irrelevant, right? Because we know if one person uses nukes, that's the end of the world. The West will just nuke them back, and then the whole world as we know it will basically cease to exist. So there's no winner if anybody uses nukes. But I'm talking about ground war. Ground troops, ability to take cities intact. Russia has just really shown gross incompetence, and that's the thing. I really do think that that top military officials were just skimming money off the top and not investing it where they told Putin that it was being invested. I think they'd buy like an updated tank and a helicopter here and there and have a little parade and be like, oh yeah, don't worry, we got plenty more, but they really don't. I mean, you can actually see. I've watched. There's a channel that I watch. It's called Speak the Truth. He does a great coverage of the war, and he showed footage where you actually had a Russian soldier. He was firing, right, and he actually didn't have the stock of his gun pressed against his shoulder, so he was just like shaking around. Now, obviously, that's not going to be very accurate. That's like gun 101, right? To plant the stock against your body. So it kind of just shows that that a lot of these guys they sent in are green and inexperienced and probably haven't had extensive training. So it could be everybody is saying that Russia's keeping their more experienced and better fighters back at home, which and that may be true. Because you don't want, if Russia were to be invaded, and now there are rumors that Ukraine has actually been doing covert attacks on Russian soil. They actually blew up a supply depot and a fuel depot at Belgorod, and I believe the attack was actually carried out by attack helicopters. So the fact that the Russian Air Force wasn't able to detect those and shoot those down kind of speaks volumes. And I mean, again, you can see video of this. So unless it was Russia blowing up their own supply depot to do a false flag, which I don't put past them. I mean, that is entirely plausible. They could be doing that too, because Russia is kind of like the king of false flags. So that is definitely a possibility too. But yeah, I think Ukraine was able to successfully make some covert attacks inside Russian soil, which, good. That's what they need to do. They need to actually show Russia that this is going to come close to home. Um, so yeah, I don't think the Russian military is definitely not what it was cracked up to be. Now I will say that this is far from over. Okay, I'm not claiming that Ukraine is going to win this war long term. There's going to be a really big battle in the Donbass region coming up. We see satellite images. Russia is, stationing a bunch of troops there. They're being really stupid about it because I saw footage of another Russian tank column getting blown up by artillery. I don't, this is what I can't wrap my mind around is the tank columns have not been working and yet they're still trying it. And it's spring in Ukraine right now, so it's mud season. As the ground thaws, you have the tanks and military vehicles have to drive on the roads because they'll get stuck in the mud. So if Ukraine, think about this, if the Ukrainian military knows that you're coming and they know you're on a certain route, they can position their artillery to blow the shit out of that route and blow the shit out of that column. So it just doesn't seem like a good strategy. Now there is the possibility again that Russia's just playing incompetent. They could be sharking anybody. I don't know. That's kind of War 101. That's Lao Tzu art of war is to make your enemy think they're winning. That's entirely possible too. But this battle in the Donbass region, Ukraine has approximately 50,000 troops there, and they've actually done humanitarian corridors to get a lot of civilians out. So I think we're going to see really, really heavy fighting over there. The guy that I follow, Speak the Truth, he's a former U.S. Army vet, so he gives a lot of good perspective on that. He thinks that we're actually going to see World War II level casualties in the Donbass region within the next week or two. Hopefully not. I mean, the whole thing just really sucks. This is all for Putin's ego. And of course, the great irony is that, Finland is going to join NATO and probably Sweden too. And Putin said, the whole goal of this is, oh, I don't want NATO, expanding another inch eastward. NATO is going to expand eastward. And, you got Russia making threats like, that would be seen as an act of war. They've already claimed, that us sending weapons to Ukraine, that could be an act of war. Believe you me, like that, that's definitely a bluff. If they're having this much, here's the thing, right? Russia may end up winning the war in Ukraine. They may actually be able to take the country long term. They may even be able to take Kyiv, take the capital, even expand as far as Lviv. Who knows? It is entirely possible. But what we've seen just from Mariupol and the defeat at Kyiv is that this is not the competent military that they make themselves out to be. There's definitely a little bit of a paper tiger here. So if they're having this much trouble with Ukraine, which I believe was ranked like the 25th most powerful military in the world, you know what I mean? It's not like a top 5 world power because Ukraine is not a world power. They're kind of like a second world country. Like they're not a third world country. They're not broke. They have problems with corruption, but they're also not like a developed, first world, nation like the United States or China or Russia, or like Germany or France or, Western Europe. But, the thing here being is that, if they're having this much trouble with a military like that, okay, I hate putting this in terms of like a sports analogy because, this is a serious matter and people have died. So it's not a joke or anything, but this is like, this is like taking like some guy who's like ranked like 25th in like MMA and he comes out and like he doesn't win, but he takes the champion the distance. He makes it's an actual hard fight for the champion to win. And then there's doubt in people's mind, like, oh wow, is the champion really actually that good? If it was that hard for him to win, against this guy who's like ranked 25th. That's kind of like what this would be like, right? So it's kind of like an unranked person like going to the Olympics and maybe they didn't win the gold, but they took the silver, right? And nobody really expected that out of them, but they gave the top contender. They made it really, really hard for them. So that's kind of like what this is like in an analogy like that. But again, like whatever it is, like Russia is definitely struggling in Ukraine. I'm the Ukraine claims that near 20,000 Russian soldiers have died already. Now again, it's very very hard to verify that. Again, nobody's really gotten into Mariupol, so God knows what we've seen on on both sides. There's probably mass casualties on both sides, but they are surrounded. I can't see them keeping it up all that much longer. The people who there, you got to really admire the will of the people there. They haven't had food, clean water, electricity in well over a month, and they've still been fighting. They've refused to surrender. And you know what? Like, honestly, that's a good thing. You're gonna have people who are be like, Ukraine should just surrender. This is reckless and costing lives. It's kind of like personally, I'd rather be dead than live under the rule of Russia. Okay, that's just me. I'm a Cold War baby. That's just me. But Ukraine was a former Soviet state. We have plenty of people. We have celebrities here, like you guys. I don't know if you guys know Kirill. Assholes live forever. We have fun fact: Mila Kunis is actually Ukrainian. I think she was born in like '84. Me and my wife were just talking about this last night. That tell you about how much living under Soviet rule sucked. Not that Russia is the same thing, right? It's not the Soviet Union anymore, but we know what we're heading back to. They know that living under the rule of Russia sucks. So, a lot of the people there, of course, are going to fight to the death to not have that again. It's very interesting how the people who actually lived, with communism, don't want it back and are actually willing to die to stop it from happening again. So, actually hats off, to the Ukrainian troops and citizens of the city of Mariupol. You've made this an absolute hell on Russia to take the city. And what happened there is a tragedy. It's horrible what happened to the people who were bombed and starved. And when this is all done, I really hope that the people who did it are held to account or dead, hopefully. But that's kind of where we're at. So, we're going into the second month of this. I do think we're going to see a pretty decisive. Here's the thing. The Donbass region will be very decisive. The upcoming battle in the Donbass, in Donetsk and Luhansk, are going to be, very decisive in what happens in this war. Because if Russia is able to push through, then they can keep expanding west slowly, and that'll be a long, drawn-out thing. If Russia is stopped in the Donbass, I don't really know. I would say it's over if that happens, honestly, because that would be another failed assault. They have a lot more men there than they had at Kyiv, and Ukraine has a lot of troops there too. So it's going to be a really, really bloody battle. It's going to be really terrible. We're going to see casualties on both sides, but if they are stopped here, then they're going to have to go into reserves, and they're going to have to bring in some of those experienced people that Putin's got at home. And I just wonder, are they going to do that, knowing that's going to significantly weaken their military? I mean, if they really have lost 20,000 men already in under 2 months, that's not a good rate that they can keep going at, right? That would result in a severely weakened Russian military, and if there was to be a conflict with NATO, they definitely cannot afford that kind of casualties just in Ukraine alone. And the other possibility too is, I know they're scared to do it, but you got Putin putting his spy chief in prison. You have to wonder too, are the people of high up in the military gonna Putin soon, because they see that he's doing a lot of damage, militarily and economically to Russia. I mean, again, in Russia, they've got those little tags that they put on nice clothing at the mall so that they go off in the metal detector. Those are on canned foods in Russia now. I've seen a video of that. They actually had a reporter in Moscow, and they had sugar trucks pulling up because people were fighting over sugar. So. The economic state in Russia, I heard that the GDP has dropped 12% since this all started, which, really, really terrible. Ukraine's GDP has dropped 45%. So even when this is all over, they're looking at really, really bad economic conditions and poverty coming up. So, this has just not been good for anybody, not been good for either side. I just, as grim of an outlook as it is, Putin's not reasonable. I think the only way this ends is unfortunately if Putin gets, And with that, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, everyone.